record on this computer. Okay, recording. Hi. Okay,
Okay.
Hi, Bill.
Hi,
Fantastic.
Janine.
It's so great to see you and connect with you in this way. And thank you so much for making the time to share about your workshops that you'll be bringing to the next Constellation Intensive. But more importantly, thank you so much from the community in Australia for actually making the time in your busy schedule to come all the way to Sydney again. We're so looking forward to your work and hearing about your adventures and all the work that you're doing in China as well as other locations. But perhaps today would be really great if you could share a little bit about the morning workshops that you'll be offering at the intensive. The titles have really got my imagination going. You talked about improvisation and who are we without our story, and you made a great video with your son on that. Just loved it. And the other one is making peace with your parents. So perhaps you could tell us a little bit about the improvisation, because that's kind of left of field.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate the invitation, and I'm really looking forward to being back in Australia. It's been a few years, but I'm really excited. I could make this work, and to be back in that field again. So improv. Okay, let me start. So those are the three workshops I came up with. And I just said, I want to do a workshop in improvisation. My original training was in the theater as an actor. I wanted to be an actor, and improvisation was a big part of that. And I thought about improv in terms of facilitators and or therapists or other people who work in groups. It really is an incredible way to get you to stay present, because it teaches you how to, what's the phrase, think on your feet, to move with whatever's moving without, getting shaken or tossed aside or getting trapped in your own fear, especially if the constellation is really big. So the idea is, it would be 2 hours of lots of improvisations, and maybe at the end, I haven't thought this through yet, everybody would do a little sketch
Right.
or of something that they've developed. It's a really incredible tool, and I would encourage anyone who's in this work, if they could go to an intensive or a training or a workshop anywhere in Australia, anywhere else, if someone's just doing an improvisational, to do it. It really is fabulous. Yeah, it teaches you how to move, how to think on your feet, puts you in touch with your body, but really about staying present.
Yeah,
and it's
great
fun, and
skill for facilitators. Yeah, fantastic.
it's fun too.
Great. And take people out of that sort of, like, I've got to get it right, or I've got to get it perfect.
It totally gets
in the moment.
Yeah,
brilliant.
It really gets you out of your comfort zone. I did a workshop here with my daughter. She teaches improv now in Europe and in California. And I've had top therapists come, top facilitators come, and they said, I am so anxious going into this workshop, only because they know they're going to come out of their comfort zone. So let's come out of our comfort zone.
Yes. I mean, that's where we want to go. We want to enter the field in that space of, I don't know what's going to happen, and allow what needs to emerge.
I don't know what you're going to say. If we're doing a sketch together, I don't know what's coming next. And it's fun. It's fun.
Fantastic. Great. That's great. So looking forward to that. And we've had a little bit of an introduction from that fantastic video your son did on who are you without your story, but just a little bit more on that, because I know that's something that you work with a lot and has a powerful impact.
Well, it's something I've been exploring only partly because my, doing more Buddhist meditation and studying more Buddhist philosophy, started to think about, okay, constellations opens a door. And I've seen this actually in the work. Constellations opens a door, and when somebody works through an entanglement, a deep, painful entanglement in their system, sometimes what happens is they're put into this existential crisis. And they, who am I now? My role is not here. And where do I go next? And what I usually hear is, I'm afraid. And of course, I celebrate that. I said, that's good. Well, all the stuff is gone now. And so the story starts to disappear. I'm this, or I used to be that, or even in relation to your trauma. We all had a childhood trauma, and we create stories around it. And the stories is what really make us suffer, because the event is gone.
Yes.
And so it's looking at that and finding out what are the next steps. So that's why I say, who are you without your story? Because we all have these stories we tell
Yeah.
ourselves about ourselves to make sense of everything around us.
Yes, beautiful. So that's really lovely. Yes, the events are past, but it's just still the story that we hold around it and the unintegrated trauma we hold in our body. So if we can work with both of those, that's a really powerful tool to
Well,
work
yeah,
with.
right. Not just with your personal trauma or just, your relationship, your entanglement with your mother or your
Yeah,
grandfather or something, that we carry all that. And then when it unravels, as I said, it really creates this existential crisis. Like, who am I now? Because I was living this for so
yeah,
long.
yeah. That's who I thought I was. Yeah, beautiful.
That's
And
who I
that
thought
takes
I
me to
was.
your other workshop, Bill. So that leads really beautifully into that other workshop, which
This
can be
is the
really
most.
challenging for
This will be the
people.
most significant one.
Making peace with your parents. That's it, because we just have to let go of that story that many run around our parents. So tell us a little bit about where you go with
Okay,
that.
so I mean, I've seen, and especially recently in China, people refuse to let go. They're holding on to something, and usually I see it in the body, right?
Yeah,
The people are like brilliant, and they're either facilitators or they have a full life and they're successful. But when I mention mom or dad, you can see this immediate constriction. Not always, but you can see it, and I
yeah.
realize there's something there
Mm,
that's not finished. It's
mm.
not. And it's not about grieving the loss of your mother, and we know that we've all lost our parents, or our parents were died when we were young, and that feeling of sadness comes up. That's not what I'm talking about. It's that wish that I wish it was different, or
Yes,
wish I
yes.
had
Other
mom,
than
I
it
wish
was.
mom was different, or I wish dad was different. If he never left me, and it's still in there, and I think there's a freedom that comes, and I've witnessed it when all that can be we can surrender all that and say,
Yeah.
okay,
It's the ultimate in acceptance, isn't it? Accepting what is. This is it. What you got is what you got. And
what you got is what you got.
yeah,
Even in the most horrific cases, even if the parents have been really terrible,
yes,
it's just stepping back and saying, yeah,
that's what I got. Yeah,
that's what I got.
yeah.
But
How to make
I
the best
also
of it.
have this, and
Yes.
maybe I have this.
Yeah, beautiful.
And just,
And
it's really a surrender, a stepping away from and going, okay, yeah, like you said, what
yeah,
is.
yeah. And will part of the workshop, so that'll be part of the morning workshop, and will some of the aspects of all of this be part of the thread that you'll take into the learning groups in the afternoon, Bill? So do you see the sort of unpacking a little bit more the
Oh, absolutely.
how
Absolutely.
to, because you know how hungry our Australasian participants are, like we're fantastic participants, I think, because we just go, oh, like unpack
Feed
that
me,
for me, how can I use that in
feed
my
me,
work?
feed me. Yeah,
Yes,
feed
exactly.
me.
We're just very open with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I have I've collected so much over the years. So that would
Great.
be the intention is,
Great.
here's a little taste, and in the afternoon we'll go to the buffet table.
Beautiful. Fantastic. Okay, great. And just lastly, as a little completion to this little segment, I wanted to ask you, and I meant to sort of say this before, but um, what do you think is do you have an example that comes to mind of how constellations has been most helpful, particularly around one of Hellinger's quotes that really guides me the most in my work, an element of constellation that you found supports the bringing together of what's been separated. That quote of Hellinger's, the greatest soul moves in only one direction, and that is to bring into union that which has been separated. Do you have any little sort of example that comes to mind on how you see constellation work most helpful in that? I know this is kind of...
Well, it's funny because I think I was telling a group recently, I almost sense that when it's happening in a constellation. It's probably because of my own personal experience growing up, and things I've moved through. So I'm very sensitive to things that are attachment things, when people have been separated or there's been a break in the bond.
Yes.
Um, and Stefan Hausner actually said that many years ago, that his job is about healing connections.
Yes.
finding where the connection is broken. And to me, that's so moving when I as a facilitator, it's just when it comes up, it's so touching when it
Yes.
happens.
And it is a movement that just
It's a
expresses
movement.
itself, and you just know there's just been a shift in the field when that reconnection happens.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story. Now, usually I tell this story because of I use it as when I'm explaining representation, but and I'll probably tell it in Australia. But basically, I used to work with adolescents, and there was this one boy who I was in a group. It was an outpatient clinic, and the kids were 13 to 18. And this one boy who was adopted wanted to work. He was hyperactive, wanted to work. So I said, "This is your day. I promise today we're going to work." And there was a new girl, and I tell this story because she used to swear like a sailor. This girl, 15 years old, impeccably dressed. And I'll share that for a later time. But the idea is, I said to him, his name was Michael. I said, "Michael, what's your question?" So we get into the group, we sit, and everybody's happy he's going to work. He says, "I want to know why my mother gave me away." And I think the story was, she's 16, 17, couldn't keep the baby, parents wouldn't allow, whatever. And I said, "Okay." So I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I said, "Wow, it's a really heavy question," but he wanted to find out. So I said, "Pick someone to represent your mother." So he picks this girl. And I said, I'm not going to explain to you what's happening. She was new. I said, "Just come over here and stand here and just relax." And I said, "So ask your question. Or first, would you represent Michael's mom?" She said, "Yeah." "Okay, ask your question." And he said, "Mom, why did you give me away?" Well, 2 minutes ago, she was like really tough and stuff. She starts shaking. And I'm thinking, oh my God, she's going to collapse. She's going to fall on the floor. And tears start running down her eyes. Never been in a constellation before.
I'm touched already. Yes.
Yeah, tears running down her eyes. And I said, "Just breathe." Her name was Gloria. I said, "Just breathe, Gloria. Breathe." I said, "Mike, ask your question again. Mom, why did you give me away?" And her lips start quivering. And I said, "Just say what you need to say." And she looks at him, says this, "I wanted you to live." And of course, I have goosebumps. I have to take a step back. The group is crying. There's silence in the group. And this kid is smiling. I look at him, and I say, "Mike." He goes, "That's all I needed to hear."
Ah, yes.
A minute, 30 seconds, a minute and a half.
Yes, with no one it was someone that didn't have any idea what they were doing. Oh
And
God,
she
it's
dropped into this space.
yes.
And I said, "Okay, good," to step out of role. And there's a funny tagline to this, but I'll share it when I get to Australia.
Okay,
And then
that
he sat
speaks.
down, and that was it. And so yes. So that to me speaks to Hellinger's, the connection. This kid at 15,
Yeah,
he's probably 27 now. It just,
yeah,
something moved him, and it
yeah.
was like a healing.
Yes, and it was held in that space of the greater soul. That's
Mm-hmm.
really beautiful, Bill. Thanks so much. So
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to you
me
coming.
too.
I'm so touched. It's a lovely moment to end on because it's just a reminder of what happens when we step into that healing space. So I'm just so excited about you joining us, and
I'm
we
happy to be
really
there.
look forward to that. And maybe in amongst there, you might sort of lead something around the men as well, like you did so beautifully at the last interview.
Well, that was organic, so we'll see what comes.
Exactly, and I love how all that improv really pays off because you
Yep.
just enter that organic field, and I'm really looking forward to that happening. So until we see you in March, not long to go. Take care, and thank you so much again. Thanks.
Oh, my pleasure, and happy holidays. My best to Vic.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Okay.